Hello and welcome to Web of Light. I'm Dr. Kevin Ross Emery.
And I'm Dr. Reverend Lori Powers Otto. It's just, now you have me confused on my name now. What's up with that?
I don't know. What kind of day are you having?
Oh, yeah, we got to start this day over. It's always a good day, always.
You know, I always say every day you get up and you breathe and you allow yourself to be at least somewhat present and participatory in a day. Has its good moments and may have its bad moments and may have its in-between moments, but it's got its moments.
Right, absolutely.
And it's all what you do with them on. So we're gonna be doing a set of shows. We're doing our summer series for those of you who are kind of a little curious. Our show today and on the next few shows, you're going to actually be seeing that in one way or another, I'm going to be celebrating the fact that June is Gay Pride Month.
Yay!
Yay! And in fact, I don't know why I've never worn this on dragons, unicorns, and other creative creatures. I really should, because it is a unicorn.
Obviously.
And
Yeah.
Totally straight in a rainbow flag. But June is the month for Gay Pride and LGBTQ questioning, whatever. If you don't fit in a strict little 5-degree box that we've been trying to keep people in for thousands of years, then you probably fall into this category.
Right, right.
The UU church that I go to, they actually, in the signature line, everybody from the church lists their preferred pronouns.
Oh.
He, she, them, whatever.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. You never, the funny thing is we have we all have feminine and masculine energy.
Yes, every one of us.
Every one of us.
There's no one who's an exception.
No one who's an exception. So we all have a she side and we all have a he side if we want to genderize energy.
Right, which unfortunately people feel they need to do.
Yes.
I don't feel that need.
Yeah, I'm happy with going, this is from my yin, this is from my yang, and
right.
This is from my Big Bang. No,
Different show, Kevin.
I was thinking of the Big Bang Theory, but So it's so I want to start today's quote, and this show in particular, even though for the next 3 or 4 shows, I'm going to be referring to my T-shirt and celebrating some aspect of Gay Pride Month. But so the quote I chose to start today with: "Be careful who you hate. It could be someone you love."
Oh, that's spectacular. That's a perfect quote. I love it. I love it. Because it's so true. I mean, yeah, we all know families that have been torn apart because of disagreements on sexuality or gender identification. And it's so heartbreaking because that's your child, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparent. It's somebody you love. So why are you hating them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. And I didn't think, because I've done the poem a couple of times. I did it when we were doing some Poetry Corner stuff. I've done it because we had some drop-in poetry because of dragons, unicorns, and other creative creatures. And then when we did our poet show, one of my pieces I chose was one called Hidden. And it is about, it's okay as long as I stay hidden, as long as I don't talk to you about it. But there's a line in there is that I may be your favorite cousin or father or mother or child or even someone you took bath with as a child, and it's okay as long as I stay hidden.
And isn't that heartbreaking?
Yes, it is.
It really is.
tried, it's very interesting. I printed up some stuff. I'm not going to pretend to memorize it. You may find that these next few episodes are what I'm calling the clipboard series, the clipboard summer series.
I like it. I like it. It shows that we're just human.
Well, we're just human. And one of the things that often people use is people will use Christianity as the excuse to hate gay people. The Bible says.
No, actually it doesn't.
No.
It does not.
The Bible says a lot of things. And some of them, when you read it closely, you get thrown in jail if you did what it said today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most of what people do today was a death sentence when this was all first written. So think about that.
Yeah. Well, and some of the things that the Bible tells you it's okay to do or that you should do will get you arrested.
Yes.
So, there's always what I call the convenient Christians. They're Christians as long as it's convenient for them. It's a way to hide their hatred and their bigotry, which to me is not Christian at all.
It totally goes against the teachings of Christ.
Yep.
Totally.
But one of the things, I chose that quote, and there was a story out of my past that I wanted to share, and then I wanted to actually, believe it or not, share a couple of Bible quotes.
Okay, let's do it.
I worked, when I started college, my main thrust was psychology. And then I went to psychology business and then ended up being business and psychology with business being more emphasis. But I did some work at Bagley, which was Boston Alliance of Gay and Lesbian Youths in downtown Boston. And this was in the 70s.
Okay.
So we're talking the late 70s. And I always remember that, there was a defining moment there where I started to make that shift, that I wondered if I was emotionally either mature enough or my temperament was correct to work with people from a psychology standpoint. I questioned it. And I questioned it because of the work I did with Bagley. There was this young boy that I was he was showing up. I was trying to, be a sounding board and talk to him and stuff like this. And he was 15 years old, and he was living on the streets because his family had thrown him out. His father had thrown him out because he was gay, because his father was a good Catholic, and I'm not picking on Catholics per se, but somehow he interpreted his Catholicism as it means you throw your 15-year-old child out because they're gay.
Devastating.
I will always remember, because he wanted to be an architect. And he was continuing to make it through school. But by this time, 15, 16, he had started to turn some tricks to make money. He had started to turn.
He's living on the streets because his parents betrayed him.
Yep. Living on the streets. We were trying to find places for him to stay. We were trying to, keep him underneath, ending up being put into some kind of institution. So this is how it unfolded, was when he was 16. So it was like he was 15 turning 16 when all of this was going on, and he turned 16, and he went home with the wrong person, and he ended up dead.
Oh.
And this young man was just so bright and so loving, and he had such a great future, and no matter what happened, he was pushing through it, and he was doing all of this stuff. And I went to the funeral to watch the hypocritical family bemoan how the evilness of his homosexuality killed him, instead of the fact that his family killed him.
Right, their betrayal.
Yep.
Their betrayal is what got him killed.
Yep, their betrayal is what got him killed. And so, this is 1979, and people today, there are a lot of people today that want to live in a closeted closed reality in a fantasy world that says, well, but that was, we've come a long way, baby.
We really have not. We have not come a long way. I mean, we have made strides
Yep.
as a society as a whole, but nowhere near where we should be.
Yep. Last year, a young man that was in his early to mid 20s, that was still living at home. He came from a foreign culture. He was doing his best to support his mother and his sisters. The father was, I believe, dead, but he was the primary breadwinner. But his mother was relentless because he was gay, and she was relentless to the point that he committed suicide. And her response was, well, he'll be happy now, because he couldn't have ever been happy that way.
That is so sad. That just breaks my heart.
And it's 2018,
Right.
It's 2017. It's been
It's not like
30 years.
homosexuality is a new thing.
No.
And it used to be very widely accepted. You go to study any of the ancient cultures, they didn't care. They didn't have these labels. You were just a person and you fell in love with another person and nobody thought too much about it. The Catholic Church used to do lots of same-sex marriages. And then somewhere along the line, someone decided that, they were afraid that the human race was going to die off due to disease and stuff. And that's when they became obsessed with, no, you have to procreate, so you can't do same-sex relationships. That was a fear-based response, but somehow, there's way too many humans now, but somehow we still hold on to that fear, and it's ridiculous.
I always thought of homosexuality as, God's version of birth control.
No, because God is love, and love is love no matter who it is you love.
Yep.
It's love, and that's what God is. So, yeah, I have a real problem with that.
On that note, I'm going to wrap up the very serious part of it. I want to share 2 Bible quotes that I found. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. And that's Corinthians 13, 4-7.
Yeah.
And of course, in more than one place in the Bible, it talks about God is love.
Right.
So, and then this one from 1 Timothy. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So next time you hear somebody that has thrown out or wants to throw out, or you think you should throw out your child because they're gay, under the auspice of your being a good Christian, I suggest you go back and read this one.
Exactly.
So I do all of this. This is considered Pride Month. And the first Pride Parade is actually June 28th, 1969, when it was the day after Stonewall. You know Stonewall? Have you heard of Stonewall? The Stonewall riots?
Yes, but refresh me.
So Stonewall, so the year is 1969. In 1969, just so that you know, I looked up some of this stuff because I didn't want to misquote it. So I looked up some stuff, and that's why I have a clipboard here. Illinois, just to give you an idea, Illinois decriminalized sodomy in 1961. But at the time of the Stonewall riots, every other state criminalized homosexual acts, even between consenting adults acting in private homes. An adult convicted of the crime of having sex with another consenting adult in the privacy of his or her home could get anywhere from a light fine to 5, 10, or 20 years, or even life in prison.
That's ridiculous.
In 1971, 20 states had sex psychopath laws that permitted the detaining of homosexuals for that reason alone.
Wow, that's crazy.
In Pennsylvania and California, sex offenders could be committed to a psychiatric institution for life.
Yes, they did a lot of that,
And
unfortunately.
in 7 states, they could be castrated.
That's ridiculous.
Through the 50s and 60s, castration, emetics, hypnosis, electrical shock therapy, and lobotomies were used by psychiatrists to cure homosexuals. So in 1969, in Greenwich Village in New York City, the police kept on harassing and raiding this place where the Stonewall Inn, where which actually was a club run by the mafia for marginalized people.
Right. I mean, I was 6, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know, they were running it for marginalized people, and transvestites, transgendered, effeminate young men, hustlers, butch lesbians, homeless youths, they all gathered here, and the police would routinely go raid it, would throw people in jail, would rough them up because it was okay.
Right, because they could.
Because it was legal. And on June 27th, on June 28th, 1969, I'm sorry, the actual riot happened on the 27th, and the first parade, which was quote unquote was considered the first parade, they went to raid it, and the drag queens had enough, and it was led by the drag queens. They went out and they started fighting back, and they took off their heels and started hitting the police with it, and they started saying, no, we will not be treated like this. You do not have a right to treat us like this.
Good for them. Good for them.
And that was the beginning of the gay rights movement.
I mean, what courage that had to take.
Yep. Yep.
You know, I'm a big believer in just because you can doesn't mean you should.
No.
And what they did was wrong. There's no two ways around it. The police. What the police did was wrong.
Yeah, and that was in New York City, which of course had the first gay pride parade. And, you know, there was a couple other things, but right here, this state has some horrible history, especially in Manchester.
Yeah.
And, you know, William Loeb and then Naki Loeb made it a life mission to ruin people's lives that were gay. They illegally got a private club, which was for gay people's, a list of the members, and published it in the paper to ruin those people's lives for no other reason than to ruin their lives. Naki Loeb, when AIDS was really first hitting, wrote a front page editorial about how this was God's punishment against homosexuals and they deserved it.
Okay, so how's he explain all the non-homosexuals that have AIDS, even today?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not like God doesn't pick and choose like people think, you know. He doesn't say, oh, you guys are all dying of this thing and you're all dying of this. That's not how God works.
No. So now I found this interesting. Some of the first Pride marches on Saturday, June 27th in 1970. The Chicago Gay Liberation organized a march. And so they coincided it with the other parade. And then interesting, this one surprised me. And then in Los Angeles, do you think Los Angeles would kind of be a, you know, more accepting?
Right.
Grudgingly, the police commissioner granted the permit, but the fees for them to put the first Pride parade on, they were told was going to be $1.5 million to put on this parade. After the American Civil Liberties Union stepped in, the commission dropped all of its requirements but a $1,500 fee for police service, and that too was dismissed by the California Superior Court, ordered the police to provide the protection they would for any other group.
Good, because they'll protect the Klan, and they'll protect this group and that group.
Yep.
Same thing.
And over 1,000 homosexuals and their friends staged not just a protest march, but a full-blown parade down world-famous Hollywood Boulevard.
Nice.
So, followed by Philadelphia, and then the list started to grow, and now you have gay pride marches that happen all over the world.
Yes.
All over the world they have them now. Sometimes they vary a little bit in the time of year, because certain places, like Phoenix does it earlier because it's a little too hot at the end of June.
Yes.
But they now have them in Africa and South Africa and Asia, and they're all over the place. And the first ones were fairly quiet, actually. They weren't, they became, as time went on, a more Mardi Gras type of event or fair.
Now it's a celebration.
Yeah, it's a celebration.
Originally it was really a fight for your lives, for equal rights and being accepted. But now it's a celebration of being who you are.
Yep. Absolutely. And, and that's the whole thing is the whole pride. And, of course, there's a whole energy of, is pride a good thing or a bad thing? And to me, and obviously I want to hear what you have to say, but pride, like just about every other energy I can think of, is neither positive or negative. It's who and how it's being applied.
Right, exactly. Right. Just like anything else, it's a matter of intention, degree. There are some people, but pride is not the problem. If someone's being prideful and somebody's trying to fault them for that usually they're not exuding pride. Usually those people have incredibly low self-esteem and they're terrified and they're acting out. That's not the same as having pride. Does that make sense?
Yes. And, and I don't know, you probably remember this. It used to be a popular phrase for some period of time. I know I used to use it a lot. I used to say, I'm not conceited, I'm convinced.
There you go.
I know what I'm good at. Why should I be less? But I'm okay with what I'm not good at. And I'm willing to talk about that equally.
Right.
I recently had a run-in with a deer on the highway.
Yes, thank God you weren't hurt.
And my poor Mustang got beat up by a deer on Everett Turnpike. Bully deer. Who said they're gentle? But anyways, but so I've had a few different car things going on lately, and somebody said to me, well, you can change your brake pads, you can change your own oil, you can change your all this. And I said, no, as a matter of fact, I can't. I'm really horrible when it comes to cars, and I'm really okay with being horrible when it comes to cars. I'm really good at other things that pay me, so I can take somebody who finds great joy and loves to work on cars, and I can pay them for their joy.
Right, right.
That's how the world's supposed to work.
Right. We can't all do everything ourselves, although Bruce and I do try. But yeah, we don't do car work either. We have in the past, and we can, but we choose not to. We choose to let somebody else who loves working on cars do that while we do something else that we love.
And I find it interesting because, sometimes people, have made comments like I have this huge ego and I'm really full of myself. And it's like, I'm as quick to say something that I'm not as good at, or to say, yeah, that's not my thing, or yeah, you don't want me doing that, or whatever. And that gets ignored.
Right.
But whenever I say I'm good at anything,
Right.
oh, you're awfully full of yourself.
Well, you know why that is? Because so many people are afraid to toot their own horn. So many people are afraid to share and be happy and proud of what they're good at. Because we've been taught as a society that you don't do that. And that's ridiculous.
It is. And in the case of pride festivals, one of the things is, and I could not have had, for a number of reasons, I could not have had a more accepting parent in Papa, my father.
Yes.
My mother and stepfather, struggling. They definitely struggled a whole lot more, and took them a long time. But when I was at, I think I went to a pride parade. I was around for the first pride parade of Boston, and I didn't march in it, but I went to it. And then I was around, and I did I think the first pride parade in a couple of different places. But every time Papa would always, and he never had an issue with me being gay or bisexual, because for a long period of time, there was a period of time where I was definitely bisexual and then settled into, this is really kind of where I'm at in this moment. And so I'm telling you where I am in the now.
Right.
The now can change.
Right.
But he always said, I don't know about this marching thing. He goes, I think you're just setting yourself up to be victims. You're just setting yourself up for people that are looking for an excuse to find one. You're just handing it. You're just causing, and the people who, of course, early on in the parades and still now, and I've marched in San Francisco, and and I've been around, that the most fringe elements are always out there, the ones that are going to push everybody's buttons.
Right.
The leather daddies and the motorcycle mamas and the drag queens and all of these things, they're out. And so, but I think that some of that is the insecurity, the self-worth, the self-esteem, being told 364 days of the year, or 360 or 358, that you're wrong, or that you're bad,
right,
or blah, 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 blah. And so coming out, so to speak, hugely, is one thing. But I think that there's a core element of the Pride Parade that my father never got, which is pride was pride in response to, I will not be ashamed.
Right.
It
right.
was pride versus shame.
Yes.
I have nothing to be ashamed of.
Right. Well, we have a mutual friend who's gay, who is very anti anything gay pride. He just thinks it's causing trouble and drawing attention. He cannot understand, or just refuses to understand, that this is about being able to be who you are and being loved and accepted for who you are. And I think these gay pride events are important, especially for the youth who have been betrayed by their families, or just by society. They need a support group. They need to be welcomed, and to know that they're valued, and to know that they're loved, and to know that they're worthy. And I think these events are incredibly important, especially for them, but not just for them. Our mutual friend, he should try going to a couple and seeing that he's not alone. A weirdo. He's not alone. He would be loved and accepted.
Yep. I don't know if I'd go so far that he wouldn't still be a weirdo, but he wouldn't be that kind of weirdo. No.
All right. Yeah, there might be a line there. You're right.
You know. Just because you're gay doesn't make you normal.
Well, who has to be normal anyway? What does that even mean? I
Really?
hate that word. Don't ever call me that. I find it a huge insult.
Yeah, really. So I think that still one of the highest suicide populations for teenagers are ones that are struggling with sexual orientation or gender.
Right.
So you're transgendered, you're gays, you're lesbians. These are the kids that still find, that literally get told that God hates them. Now, I don't know anywhere in any religious text ever that you see, and God hates this person.
Right. God does not hate. God is incapable of hate.
Like, where did that come from? And again, we talk about all sorts of sensitivity trainings and, and understanding and things like this, but, it still happens. One of the things that people talk about is, and this still happens, is, when oftentimes when a woman gets raped, and if she proceeds and she goes to court, she's made to look like the bad person, and she's treated like she's the perpetrator, and that she's the issue of it.
Right.
When I was 18, I was attacked, I was beaten, I was raped, and I ended up in the hospital. And the police officer came in and said, and asked me if I was gay. And when I said I was, well, you got what you deserve, and he walked out. They wouldn't press charges, they wouldn't pursue, and the person that did it kept coming back to the hospital to see me, and they'd let him in, and I'd become hysterical, and I would we won't get involved in a private matter. This is not a private matter.
No, this is not a private matter, right.
This is not, but it was okay. It was okay. The police wouldn't do anything. The hospital wouldn't protect it. No.
Well, there's a hospital in New Hampshire that told someone I know that's gay that the nurse said to him, "I'm not going to help you. I will not give you your meds. I will not do anything. You'll have to wait till another nurse comes on duty because I don't help gay people." That's a nurse.
And she still works there?
Yep.
So you know what? It is 2018 and horror stories are still happening.
Yep.
They're still happening. And people say, well, why do gay people need special rights? No, they just need equal rights, and they still need equal rights. The nurse would get fired for refusing to give medication to anybody else.
Right, right. And that's what I tried to tell our mutual friend. It's about equal rights. It's not about more rights or different rights. It's about equal rights. And that doesn't matter if you're gay or lesbian or you're black or you're an immigrant. Everybody deserves equal rights. And that's what the message is about. Everybody. So for people to try to spin it to justify not having equal rights for everybody just shows what cowards and small, insecure, petty people they really are, because everybody deserves equal rights.
Yep. Absolutely. And there is just so many social mores. There are so many unspoken. It's just like that whole issue of there's another whole level of humiliation or shame if a man gets raped versus a female.
Right. Which is why most men don't come forward.
Nope, not at all. So we've had some pretty heavy conversations today. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and the whole reason this is Gay Pride Month, and it's if you do not know somebody that is gay or transgendered, and I say gay, lesbian, LGBTQT questioning, then you're not paying attention.
Right.
You're just simply not paying attention because they're out there. And if they can't be that person with you, then, you know, it may be about you or it may be about them. I mean, coming out is very, very hard, especially depending on how you were raised, what kind of religious nonsense was shoved down your throat. Yes, and I said religious nonsense, and I just said it again, and I'll probably say it one more time. Religious nonsense about God hating you or you being born wrong or bad.
Right.
You know, that drive teenagers to committing suicide and the harassment and all of these things. So you've got them somewhere in your life. Right. They're there. They're around.
Right.
And Pride Day is not just for LGBTQ questioning.
Right.
LGBTQT questioning. Anyways, the alphabet soup with a question mark.
Too many acronyms.
I know. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I have to say, there are a lot of acronyms. But it's also for people that are in, you know, in groups like PFLAG, you know, which are for you know, friends of people that are gay.
Right. Friends,
and family.
Family.
Yeah.
Right.
PFLAG. When my husband told his mother that he was gay, she immediately went out and joined PFLAG, and she, you know, it's so funny because when he first, you know how on the iPhones you can just transfer your information to somebody else on an iPhone so they have the card. So in my phone, if I want to call my mother-in-law, I have to put in G because she's listed under Gay Pride Mummy. Because that's what he has her in the phone.
Nice. But see, that's a mother that loves her son, and she just accepts him for the magnificent and wonderful and special person. And you know, I love your husband. I just think he's magnificent. So, you know, it makes me happy to know that he has a loving, supporting parents, you know?
Yeah, both his parents are great about it. So what I'm getting ready to announce now, and I've mentioned it on other shows before, but I specifically wanted to mention that this is the first year Nashua is going to have a gay pride festival.
That makes me so happy. I'm so excited.
Nashua Pride Festival is Saturday, June 30th. It is a free celebration of diversity, music, and fun, focused on promoting equality and inclusion of all people.
All people.
Inclusion of all people.
Love that.
So, first of all, I'm going to be giving you more information. I've got a whole bunch of details, and I wanted to put that out. There is a website which unfortunately got cut off on the thing I printed, but I'm sure you can Google Nashua Pride Festival or Pride Parade, and you'll get all the information because they do have a place that you can email, and they have a website. But you go out to support people to say you don't have to be ashamed.
Right.
You know, I've said this before, you may or may not have heard me, but we all have closets.
Everybody, every single person.
There's always a closet of some kind that we have. And that closet was somebody that was trying to limit us or put us in a box, because that's what a closet is. This is just a box.
Right.
And they want to keep us small or manageable or understandable, or they want to be comfortable.
Right, or hidden, right.
Or hidden. They want us hidden. I have a resistance to closets.
Really? How
Yes.
weird. I wouldn't expect that from you.
Yes. Part of that comes from the fact that as a small child, I was locked in them.
Well, that's not good. That's terrible.
But I was only locked in the closet because I was afraid of the dark. That was the way to train me not to be afraid of the dark.
I see. Yeah, no, doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Anyways. So join us June 30th from 2 to 5 for a full day of activities and entertainment. Events will include a pride parade,
Yay.
speakers, drag show, a doggy drag show.
Wow. Oh, wow. Wish I'd
And
known
much
about that ahead of time.
But no kitty drag show. Oh, just,
Yeah, I think cats are a little more resistant to clothes and costumes.
they're just nudist by nature.
Right.
So Pride Parade starts at 2 o'clock. You can meet in the Maple Street parking lot. It starts at the intersection of Mulberry and Elm Street. Turn right onto West Hollis Street. Turn left onto Main Street. Turn left onto Water. I know I'm giving you a lot of directions, but again, you can go look this up. And it is ends at Le Parc de Notre Renaissance François, aka French Park.
Okay.
At 2:45, there'll be a mayor and other speakers. At 3 o'clock, there'll be a doggy drag show. At 3:30, there'll be performances by Transposition and the New Hampshire Gay Men's Chorus. And at 4 o'clock will be a main drag show. They are looking for parade participants, doggy drag show participants, volunteers, and festival tables. So again, Nashua Pride Festival, first one, Saturday, June 30th. And it is, I love this, it is a free celebration of diversity, acceptance, music, and fun focused on promoting equality and inclusion of all people.
Love it. Love it.
And I think that, anybody who's been marginalized should be showing up at a parade like this to say, it's not okay anymore.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
Despite the fact, and I don't want to take that corner, I'm just going to and turn it into this kind of discussion, but I think that it's the fact that we need to not have a country who is run so much by old straight white men. Because old straight white men are not the majority anymore.
No.
I mean, white people are barely the majority, and within the next, I think, 5 to 7 years, they're not even going to be the majority in this country.
We will not be.
We're a melding pot. That's what we were created to be, was a melding pot.
Right, and that is exactly, people talk a lot about our forefathers. They came here for freedom and for diversity and for inclusion and for welcoming people from all cultures.
Absolutely.
That was their intent.
Yes, and we were not. And it drives me right up a wall every time somebody says, well, we were founded as a Christian nation. No, we were not. And many of the founding fathers saw Christianity as dangerous.
Yes.
They specifically said things about Christianity. They put things in to say, we are not. In fact, until the 50s, we didn't even have one nation under God as part of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right, and people don't understand that. That was only put in because of the fear of communism. So that was not something this country was based on. It was a fear reaction. And it wasn't on our money, it wasn't in the Pledge of Allegiance. That all came out of fear relatively recently.
I have this coin. It's a wooden coin. And, of course, coins represent heads, tails, opposites. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be the representation of a coin. You have two sides. On this coin, one side says faith and one side says fear. Are you acting in faith or are you acting in fear? Fearmongers put one nation under God.
Yes.
Fearmongers try to sell us a bill of goods by saying we were founded as a Christian nation.
Right, and we were not.
And we were not. It is fearmongers. And the funny thing is, no matter how they want to look at it and how fateful they want to portray themselves, they're on the wrong side of the coin. It's all from fear.
Right.
And you'll push so far, and then there'll be a pushback. And right now, we have the bully in chief that we have sitting in the White House. And I have people that have said to me, you know, you're being disrespectful to the president or the office of president. I am identifying. And I want people to really think about this. By his own words, whether written in tweets, said, quoted, caught on camera, audio taped, anybody else using the language he did, if they were in school, would be called a bully and would get thrown out.
Right.
Would suffer legal action at a workplace for harassment and bullying. So I call him bully in chief because he has proven himself to be a bully.
Right.
And what did we do? We elected our first black man for 8 years. Mulatto, I'm sorry. I hate it when people call Barack Obama a black man.
He's not.
Because he was mulatto.
Yes.
I always say America couldn't get all the way to electing a black man. They could only get halfway. But, you know, it was a whole lot further than they had before.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It was a step forward.
And then the reaction was all the fear came out. And we got our bully in chief. And that pendulum will swing again because that's what it does. But if you are somebody who doesn't think people should be bullied, if you are somebody who doesn't think that people should be marginalized, if you're somebody that thinks, like, if you're not hurting me, what business is it of mine? If you're not hurting me, what business is it of mine? And it was so interesting because when I was doing the Bible quotes, this guy had this thing out about 8 things to remember about gay marriage, and it was from a Christian perspective. And so I was kind of curious because I was ramping up for this show and I was kind of reading it. And one of the things that he pointed out was that Christ actually, according to the Bible, said something about let Caesar be Caesar. That's not what we're here for. Christ actually said, do not get involved in politics unless you're protecting somebody who cannot protect themselves. And he was using that as a self-justification for the abortion thing, that, you know, you're protecting an unborn baby. But when it came to things like gay marriage, it's like, no, Christ was really clear. Do not get involved with politics. And I'm not a biblical scholar because I wasn't raised with the Bible. I wasn't raised Christian, so I wasn't raised with the Bible. So I had run across that somewhere, but I had never thought about it before. But all of these organizations that are getting so involved in politics and things like gay marriage, this guy made a very good case of that's none of our business.
Well, and it's not what Jesus taught. It flies in the face of his teachings. You know, Jesus' message was love everybody, judge no one, help everybody that you can, and just be a community there for each other.
Yep.
He never taught hate, anger, rejection. None of that was part of his message. So all these people that claim to be good Christians but don't follow his teachings are just perverting the name.
Yeah. Convenient Christians. Well, I call them bully Christians. I always say you have a group of Christians, not all Christians, people who are living a Christian life via the teachings are the role models that would make somebody else want to be Christian. Okay, and I have great respect. I'm not called to that direction, but I'm very respectful, and I know people that I love dearly that live, not preach, live a Christian life.
Right.
Of acceptance and love and service and all of the other things, service being a big one as well, was part of the teachings. But then you have that fanatical, I call them the bully Christians, and they're the ones that as soon as they took Christ off the cross, they broke it into bat-sized pieces and started beating people with it. I mean, it's just hypocrisy. It's just hypocrisy. I was going to say it's best or it's worst, but it's the one and the same in this case.
In this case, yes.
Yeah, it's an example. So, why do you think so many people have to cling to an angry, judgmental God?
In my experience as a reverend, I raised myself Christian and have since outgrown it. I don't know how else to describe it. In my personal experience, it's because they're afraid. They're afraid to stand in their power. They're afraid to make their own judgments. So they need somebody to punish them. They need someone to correct them. They need someone to tell them what to do. But that's not what God's about. God doesn't want minions. God wants partners. We're here to be equal with God, and and to spread His message of love and inclusion and happiness. But people are afraid. They're afraid of, they have such low self-esteem and such low self-respect that they need a master above them. But to keep him their master, he can't be loving and kind, so they make him angry and judgmental.
Well, I think that we are enslaved in this country in some of the worst enslavement that has ever existed. We're enslaved to lawmakers and a government who don't serve us because we don't own them. The lobbyists and the corporations own them. We are enslaved by religions who have filled us with fear. If we don't follow them, we will have some kind of internal damnation. We are enslaved by a media that hand in hand has been perpetrating a conspiracy for over 50 years to destroy our self-worth and self-esteem, so we'd buy what Madison Avenue was selling.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
If I tell you that you look like, if I tell you that you look like hell in those jeans, you'll go spend $80 that you don't have on a pair of jeans that's suddenly going to fix all the problems in your life.
Right. And of course they don't, but people buy into the hype.
Yeah. And so there are several masters right now that have enslaved people, and there is oftentimes harsh and swift retribution for the people that speak out if you're not careful. It does happen.
It does, sadly.
But yet we move forward.
Right.
And one of our indications of moving forward is on June 30th, Nashua, New Hampshire is going to have its first Gay Pride Parade Festival honoring for all people, for the inclusiveness of all people.
Yes, I love that. I think that it makes me so happy.
And even though we shoot here out of Hudson, New Hampshire, which is obviously a bedroom community, so to speak, I probably have offended half of Hudson by saying that, but Nashua's the big city. No. Hey, it's the second biggest city in New Hampshire.
That part is true.
Yep. But it includes everyone. So everyone in Hudson, we love you when we include you in the Nashua Pride Festival.
Yes.
You're from Merrimack.
Yes, I am. And I would love to see something like this in Merrimack. So, but let's all go to the Nashua and make it the biggest, the best, the most wonderful inclusion party ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our first. You're gonna see, not to this extent, but we're gonna continue with the majority of our June shows, at least giving a little hurrah to Gay Pride Month here on Web of Light. So out there, the question is, what do you have that you should be, need to be? It would be in your best interest and everyone else's if you stood in pride about. Be proud of who you are, how far you've come, the challenges you've overcome. Not as a judgment or a way to look down on other people, not to be better than, but the kind of pride that says, I'm just as good at. Namaste.